3 Crimes of the Week. It's hard to believe these real-life crime stories actually occurred, or that people could be capable of perpetrating such atrocities. However, all of these crime stories are in fact genuine. Real life can occasionally be much grimmer than fiction. January 15th, 1947, 10 a.m. A neighborhood housewife named Betty Bersinger was walking along Norton Avenue in Los Angeles when she spotted something unsettling in a nearby vacant lot. Bersinger claimed that the body was so stark white when she first saw it that she initially believed it to be a mannequin. But as soon as she realized she was genuinely staring at a severed corpse, she sprinted to call the police. The Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, was the deceased woman whose body Bersinger discovered. Pieces of her flesh had been cut away from her body, and her body had been torn in half at the waist. She had been completely dismembered, but there was no blood anywhere, indicating that it had been well cleaned before being placed at the Norton Avenue location. On January 16, 1947, Elizabeth Short's body underwent an autopsy after her fingerprints were used by the LAPD to identify her. The woman's body had signs that she had been chained and tortured, and shock and cerebral hemorrhage were listed as her official causes of death. In an effort to learn more about the victim, the police released a bulletin. Elizabeth Short eventually revealed some information, including the fact that she had relocated to Los Angeles in July 1946. She struggled to find acting opportunities in Hollywood while working as a server, and she resided in a leased room behind the Florentine Gardens nightclub on Hollywood Boulevard. Newspapers began referring to Short as the Black Dahlia as soon as word of her death spread, primarily because of her strikingly dyed black hair and all-black attire. For several weeks, the Black Dahlia tale dominated the news. A suspicious manila packet marked the Los Angeles Examiner, the other Los Angeles papers, was found on January 24, 1947. The message inside the mail read, "Here are Dahlia's belongings," and it was made up of sentences that had been torn out of newspaper articles. Short's birth certificate, business cards, pictures, names scrawled on paper, and an address book were all contained inside the envelope. Similar to how Short's body had been washed, the entire contents of the envelope had been thoroughly scrubbed with petrol. Authorities came to the conclusion that Short's killer had written the letter as a result of this. Police contacted about 75 guys from Short's address book, but most of them said they had only recently met Short. The USC Medical School, which is adjacent to where Short's body was discovered, was served with a search warrant when investigators became suspicious that someone in the medical profession might have been the killer due to the nature of the precise wounds on Short's body. But even after numerous background checks and interviews, they were still no closer to cracking the case. The unsolved murder of Elizabeth Short served as the basis for numerous fiction and non-fiction works in film. The Black Dahlia, a 2008 book by James Elroy that fictionalized the facts of the case, is the most well-known narrative. A noir movie based on Elroy's book was made in 2006, with Mia Kirshner playing Elizabeth Short under the direction of Brian De Palma. Many readers will need to remind themselves that this book is fiction and not a true crime, since it is so thoroughly researched and eloquently written. There are numerous ideas regarding who might have perpetrated the Black Dahlia murder, but the investigation is still open. Many people have come forward to claim they committed the crime. However, the majority of these confessions have been disproven. Some crime writers have drawn parallels between the 1934 to 1938 Cleveland torso murders and the death of Black Dahlia. It has also been suggested that Jeanne French's death in Los Angeles on February 10, 1947, may have some connection to the slaying of Short. Black Dahlia Murder, A Genius of Murder, a true crime book written by Steve Hodel, has extensive information on the investigation as well as his own theory. He thinks that Dr. George Hodel, his father, killed the Black Dahlia. In Wisconsin's small, close-knit community of Chippewa Falls, the death of 10-year-old Liana Lily Peters and the subsequent arrest of a 14-year-old boy for her murder have horrified everyone. Around 9:15 a.m. on Monday, Lily's body was discovered in a forested area next to the walking track by the Leinenkugel's brewery. When the fourth grader failed to return from her aunt's residence on North Grove Street to her own residence on East Birch Street, her father reported her missing at around 9 o'clock on Sunday. It takes about 6 minutes to walk between the two houses. The child went missing, and a search was started to find her. Later that evening, her bike was located along the trail, and her body was found the next morning. According to the prosecution, Lily and her alleged killer walked along the walking track after leaving her aunt's house. Lily was allegedly punched in the stomach as they traveled down the route, knocked to the ground, assaulted with a stick, and then strangled to the point of death by the suspect. Prosecutors claimed that after that, the 10-year-old child was sexually molested. According to preliminary autopsy results made public on Thursday, Lily was assaulted and suffered both blunt force injuries and strangulation. The entire autopsy report is anticipated in about 6 weeks, according to Chippewa County Coroner Ron Patton, who classified her death as a homicide. While the killer was still at large previously, locals were encouraged to exercise caution, and more law enforcement was brought in to patrol schools. Chippewa Falls Police Chief Matthew Kelm later revealed that a child had been detained on suspicions of killing Lily on Tuesday night. After executing a search warrant at Lily's aunt's residence on North Grove Street earlier that evening, police located and detained the alleged killer. According to police, before the suspect was taken to jail, interviews were conducted and evidence from the property was gathered. Police said that the 10-year-old victim knew the suspect, a 14-year-old boy. He first appeared in court for a hearing where his bond was set at $1 million. The suspect shall only be referred to by his initials CP-B and cannot be recorded during court hearings due to his age and the sensitivity of the matter, Chippewa County Court ruled on Wednesday. Officials have not confirmed whether he is Lily's relative, despite the fact that they had acknowledged that the two were friends. After leaving the house with the victim, the defendant allegedly told police that his intentions was to rape and kill the victim from the get-go as they traveled along the walking path. If the boy resides at the same address as Lily's aunt, authorities have declined to confirm it. He is an 8th grade student who has spent his whole life in Chippewa Falls with his mother, according to the defense team's testimony in court on Wednesday. The 14-year-old is accused of first-degree intentional killing, first-degree sexual assault, and first-degree sexual assault resulting in grave bodily damage to a child under the age of 13. Due to Wisconsin law, which mandates that first-degree homicide charges must first be pursued in adult court if the defendant's age is 10 or older, he is currently being charged as an adult. Later, the case can be transferred to juvenile court. He might spend the rest of his life behind bars if found guilty as an adult. The suspect's subsequent court appearance is set for Thursday, May 5th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Fan Man Yi, a nightclub hostess from Hong Kong, passed away on April 14, 1999, following a month of cruel torture. The Hello Kitty murder case continues to be one of contemporary history's most horrifyingly violent. Chan Man Lok, a member of the Hong Kong Triad, and his associates abducted Fan Man Yi, a 23-year-old nightclub hostess, from her home on March 17, 1999, and tortured her to death in an apartment in the Tsim Sha Tsui neighborhood. A 14-year-old girl went to a police station in Hong Kong and informed officers that she had been haunted by the spirit of a woman who had been tortured to death and bound with electrical wire. The girl was having nightmares that were actually extremely real, as the cop found out. They discovered a large Hello Kitty doll with a woman's severed head inside the apartment. The incident, which came to be known as the Hello Kitty murder, was regarded as one of the most heinous crimes ever committed in Hong Kong. Early in 1997, Fan Mei Yi and Chan Man Lok, a 34-year-old socialite, met and realized they were compatible. Chan Man Lok was a pimp and a drug dealer, while Fan Man Yi was a prostitute and drug user. Chan Man Lok hired Long Xing Shao and Chung Wei Lun, two of his goons, to kidnap Fan Man Yi after she stole Man Lok's pocketbook. The drug lord and his goons started torturing Fan Man Yi. However, because the plan had gotten out of hand, in addition to beating and tying her up, they also burned her flesh, raped her, and made her eat human waste for more than a month. Chan Man Lok's girlfriend, who was 14 years old, was in charge of identifying the torturers and reporting their crimes to the police. Chan Man Lok and his goons kicked Fan Man Yi 50 times in the head, as seen by Ah Fang. Fan Man Yi had passed away over the night after being tortured for a month. Chan Man Lok and his goons claimed she had overdosed on methamphetamine, but medical professionals believe it was actually her injuries that ultimately killed her. The henchmen transferred Man Yi's body to the bathtub in the flat and used a saw to cut her body apart after realizing she was dead. They then cooked each piece of her body before throwing it out with the rest of the household's trash. However, they managed to rescue her head, and they used it to make an enormous Hello Kitty mermaid doll out of her boiled skull. In exchange for safety, she testified against Chan Man Lok and his two goons, describing the torture they subjected Fan Man Yi to. The authorities found some horrific evidence, including body part trophies and Hello Kitty souvenirs, at the apartment where Man Yi had been tortured. Due to the conditions of her remaining body parts, the police and medical examiners were unable to pinpoint a cause of death. The jury found the three guilty of manslaughter, even though they had contributed to her death and did not intend for her to die. The Hello Kitty murder case shocked Hong Kong's populace, but the three were sentenced to life in jail with the prospect of parole in 20 years. That was all for today. Tell us your opinion in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.